Good morning, First Fridays family. We like to call people who attend First Fridays being a part of our family now. How many first timers do we have today? Oh, great. Fantastic. How many of you came farther than 20 minutes to get here? Okay. 30 minutes. Let's go an hour. More than an hour. Let's go 3 hours. Yes. Yes, two of my good Chicagoland friends who we've been talking to about First Fridays, and they're going to be doing a leadership forum up in their suburb, hopefully at some point. So we are glad they've made it all the way from Chicagoland. Indiana is a much better state, trust me. So just talk to all the great Hoosiers. They will tell you. Well, we are happy everybody's here. And this is the start of our 6th season. Thank you. My brother who started this with me, of course, is out networking as always. My brother Jim, wave Jim. After the 2nd season, he really believed that we had something going, so he called us the Netflix of leadership in Fort Wayne. So we started calling them seasons. So we are in our 6th season, and we are super excited to be here today. Let's give a big hand to Rob Wallstrom and Vera Bradley. I mean, this is a beautiful facility. There's not very often, if you come to a regular First Fridays meeting, you will have gray or blue chairs. I am sorry we cannot provide beautiful colors like this, but this is what you get when you come to Vera Bradley, so we're excited. How many of you came by our booth at the Global Leadership Summit? And you're here today because of that. Thank you so much. That was the first time we did that. We're super excited that folks are here. First Fridays is a place that we want you to come and do 2 things. And if you leave today not doing these 2 things, I always say you're either asleep or you may have died. And we hope the latter is not going to happen. We're batting 100%, nobody dying at a First Fridays. So I'm just kidding. But we want you to do 2 things. We want you to come learn something new today, which I know we're going to hear from our great speaker, and we want you to meet someone new. Those are the 2 tenets that we have really tried to follow for the last 5 seasons. And we are very, very blessed. As you leave today, up here at this little table, we have some First Fridays pens. We also have something that you could pass on to a friend. One of the greatest things that First Fridays has grown with is the word of mouth. You know, come next month to hear Leslie Friedel and bring a friend with you. We also have a little business card too. If you don't like carrying the big card, you can carry the little card. So, but we would love for you to put this on your calendar every month. So without any ado, we're going to pass it on to Denise Mills. Denise serves on our leadership team, and she is going to come up and introduce our wonderful speaker for this morning.
Anybody that knows me knows I don't really need a mic, but hey, we'll do it anyway. I'm thrilled to be able to introduce Rob Wallstrom this morning. He's an experienced leader focused on positioning organizations for purpose-driven success. As an advocate for the power of business to create positive influence and outcomes for people and communities, he places a unique focus on building organizations with strong cultures that strive to positively impact all stakeholders. And who wouldn't want to work in a place like this, right? Mr. Wallstrom has led Vera Bradley as president and CEO since 2013, executing the company's business strategies while also championing corporate social responsibility, associate engagement, and philanthropy initiatives. In addition to his work at Vera Bradley, he serves on the boards of Brotherhood Mutual Insurance Company, Love Fort Wayne, and CEO Council of Northeast Indiana. He's a servant leader at heart. He's a strong supporter of the Vera Bradley Foundation for Breast Cancer, a dedicated advisor to the Dominican Republican-based nonprofit New Hope Girls, and he's also the founder of the City on a Hill Foundation. Please join me in welcoming Rob Wallstrom.
I'm good. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
So I learned two things this morning. First of all, there must be a second speaker coming because he said there was a great speaker, so I don't know who that was. So I'll have to make time for that person. And then also we hope that Jerry's not prophetic since he's talking about people dying here. So, other than that, so it's an honor to get a chance to just speak with you a little bit. Hopefully just share what I say, some lessons I've learned, right? I've been doing this for a little while. Many of you might have heard that I'm going to be retiring from Vera Bradley at the end of the year, but I'm not retiring like playing golf. I'll still be doing plenty of things and staying around town and be very involved. So, but just kind of moving on to the next chapter. But to me, leadership is such an extraordinary opportunity. And it's an opportunity for all of us. And that's really what I want to talk about today. It's interesting because, when I first started working, I think I was like 5 or 6 or 7 or something. I would mail order these seeds from the Boy Scouts and try to go door to door and sell them. It didn't work very well, but I tried. It was just one thing after the other, delivering papers. I worked at a restaurant equipment place. I'll tell you one thing you never want to do is recondition restaurant equipment. I mean, I've cleaned toilets. 2 toilets is better than reconditioning restaurant equipment. So done that, got into retail, and it was interesting because when I was going to college, I had really planned on going into the ministry, was what I felt called to do. But my dad argued with me and told me I had to get a job that actually paid something. So I went and got an accounting degree and ended up in business for a long time. And I always was, I think early in my career, going, okay, faith is here, work is here, work so you can do ministry, but never really figured out how to put them together. And I grew up in California, and many of you might know the California legal systems are a little bit different than the Indiana legal systems. And I'll never forget, because like the first thing I was taught when I went into business is whatever you do, don't have a Bible anywhere around because you'll get sued for it. So, it was not a way to really figure out how to put the two together in my life. But what I found out is that God was at work in it all the time. And I think that leadership is just a sacred call. And I think all of us, we talk about it all the time. I believe that leadership, we are all leading people somewhere. All of us. The only question is, where are we leading them? Right? And I think if all of us think about that every day, right? It doesn't matter in our homes, our businesses, our teams, our communities. Look at the impact that we're having, right? I know I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said you look at your kids and you realize you let them places sometimes you want them to go and some places you don't want them to go, right? They pick up all your habits, better or not. And I think that's part of what leadership is people are watching you all the time. You're having an influence all the time, whether that's intentional or unintentional. So I think the encouragement for all of us is, how do we take that and be intentional about it, right? How do we think about our leadership impact? How do we all become stronger, whether we're leading our families, we're leading teams, leading companies, leading communities? I know everybody here is in a different place, but everybody's a leader. So, I've had a privilege of working for a lot of great brands. I've worked across the country, being in retail now for 40 some odd years, worked for Macy's, worked for Saks Fifth Avenue, worked for Vera Bradley, and I'll tell you that Vera Bradley has been an amazing honor to be involved with such an amazing company for so long. So, but today I really want to talk about leadership. It's funny, a lot of times we always talk here when we talk about doing presentations about coming up with acronyms, and I was thinking about, what could I say this morning? And I put down 3 things that I thought was a great way to talk about leadership, and came up with 3 things, and I was going, what is the acronym? I can't see an acronym here. But some of you might have heard of this thing. Anybody heard of this concept in business called LTV? Anybody hear of LTV? Lifetime value. It's talked a lot about with customers, right? So what is the lifetime value of a customer? Well, today I'm going to talk to you about LTV. maybe what is your lifetime value? You're dedicating so much of your time to whatever you're doing. What is the value you're creating? So when I think about leadership, I think about 3 key principles. 1, see if this works here. There we go. Vision. We'll talk about these. One of the key things to leadership is vision. Number 2, tenacity. So it's not enough to dream. You actually have to lead, right? That's where leadership comes in. And one you might not expect, love. Okay? And I want to talk about that one. I guarantee it has nothing to do with like Me Too movement love, okay? Just so we're just really clear here. It has to do with a little bit deeper than that. So when you think about it, when you think about vision, what is vision? If you're a leader, I guarantee you right now, sitting in your chair, you have vision. And I guarantee you that people think you have vision, whether it's the vision you want to have or not, but they're following you, right? So there's a vision. What is it, right? But to me, talking about vision, it's not just a dream, right? Vision is a mission, right? It's a purpose, it's a calling. Why should people care? Why should they follow you? Where are you taking them? Where are you taking your kids? Where are you taking your team? Where are you taking your company? Where are you taking your community? What is the vision? And I told you my faith influences my leadership, and I was looking at, and this verse stood out. If you get a chance, if you want a really good reading on leadership, go read Proverbs 29. And a couple things that it says in the verse, and I'm just going to kind of pick some of it because I mean from the chapter, but it says, when the wicked rule, the people mourn. What does that really mean, right? When leaders are not focused in the right way, it causes problems, right? It causes problems in our houses, causes problems in our teams, causes problems in our families, causes problems in our communities, right? So how we lead becomes really important. So it says, I love this, the righteous consider the cause of the poor, right? How can we help people who don't have all the resources, all the tools, everything they need, right? How can we be that leader that comes alongside and provides that opportunity for people to flourish? This is a good one too. A fool speaks all that is in his mind. That one hit home with a few people. Not that we see that out in our culture right now at all, right? Not at all. So, but this last line I thought was really interesting, right? Where there is no vision, the people perish. And when you really read that verse, what is it? If there's not a reason, if there's not a purpose, people wander, falter, and fail. So, vision, right? And hopefully that vision is inspiring to everybody, right? It's inspiring to all of our stakeholders, right? It's not just our associates who work in the company or people who follow us. It's customers we serve. It's investors in our community. It's partners around us, right? But how do we inspire everybody? So how do you build a vision that's inspiring, right? I think that's a challenge for all of us. And I know for me personally, it's easy to think about vision with work and the role I have all the time, but I try to even think about it at home. Right? How do I create that vision, hopefully, that's inspiring for my kids? How do I look at other places to create that vision? So I encourage you to spend a lot of time on vision, but some things that I've learned along the way is, one, what is the solution? What are you trying to solve? What's your vision for? What's the problem? What are you solving for? What should everybody get excited about? What should everybody get up every day? What should everybody dedicate their life to? What is the solution, right? The solution has a problem, but the solution's the positive side of it. So you keep going and you talk about, okay, well, what about the long-term market trends? What's happening? What's happening long-term? Because visions aren't just for today, right? That's not a vision, right? A vision's not about today, but where is it going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And so a lot of times when I've had the privilege of going into companies, I try to go in and say, okay, how do we build something that will last a long time? What's happening in the future, not just today, but tomorrow? And that helps people get excited, okay? So also short term, what's happening today? What are the obstacles we have to overcome? What are people's challenges? What are they fighting against? How do you have an advantage, right? What's unique? What's unique about what you're doing? What's special about what you're doing? Because why do people follow a vision? Why do we get excited? Because it's usually something new. It's inspiring. It's fresh. It's solving something. I think it's always interesting, and you can talk about it in many areas of life, but one area that all of us share is politics, right? Whatever you think about politics, but what you know is that leaders who get up and have a vision that inspires, it's amazing how many people have been elected who have a phrase that everybody can quote. Why? Because it's a vision that people follow. Even if they don't know exactly what it means, they go, well, at least that sounds like a good train to jump on, so I'm going to jump on that train, right? So that idea of how do you create this that's unique, it's different, it's solving a problem, it's something that people feel they can dedicate their life to. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, how is this going to work, right? What's the model behind it? What are the resources that need behind it? All of this is part of vision. And what I've seen so many people do is they'll say things like, I want to create vision, I want to do all this stuff, but they actually don't want to do the hard work. And then all you've done is what? Created a false promise. And what happens when you have a false promise? What's the result of a false promise? Anybody know? Frustration, breaking trust, disappointment, all of those things, right? And how many times have you followed somebody? It can be a friend, it can be a business leader, it can be whoever. And what? They set up this vision you're excited about and it can't be delivered on, right? So as you think about your vision, it's an important thing to think about, what is it? How do I get there? What's the problem? What do I need? What are the resources? What's happening in the future? It's not easy. And then hopefully you boil it down into a sentence that everybody can remember. So you think about all this stuff that goes behind it, right? It's at Vera Bradley, we talked a lot when we were doing this. You say, well, what is the vision of Vera Bradley? And we talked about just making the world a brighter place. Now we can peel that back, and you can think about Vera Bradley, you can think bright, right? Everybody sees the color, you see the color here, you see the color on the bag, so it sticks and it resonates with who we are. But for us, our belief is when we talk to our customers, it's so much more than just the it that they're buying. It's not just the bag that they're buying into. What are they buying into? The smile, the connection, the story, the sisterhood, all of those things is part of what our customer bought into, and we have to understand that. And we also said, we want to make a difference. It's not enough just to sell a bunch of bags. That's nice. We like to sell a lot more bags. But we're doing it for a purpose and a reason. It's to make a difference. So obviously we've had the Vera Bradley Foundation, which has saved lives, done research, done amazing things. That's been part of our purpose. Part of our purpose is to make a great place where our associates can flourish. It's been to create an opportunity for our partners who own their own stores to thrive. How do we make the world a better place? That's why we started working with, I'll never forget, the company, if you haven't heard of them, called New Hope Girls. It's in the Dominican Republic. They actually make handbags. And I'll never forget, because I was at GLS one year, and I'm down in Grand Wayne, and I hear this voice. I wasn't sure if it was from God or who it was from, but literally yelling across the room says, Rob, get over here. And I look, and there's somebody like on the other side waving their hand. I don't know who it is. I'm like, whatever, okay. I walk over there, right? And he says, oh, I know this group down the DR, they make handbags, they want Vera Bradley to help them. And my first response was, are you crazy? We sell handbags. Why would we help somebody else sell handbags? So I told him no, but we ended up getting together, talking. I found out what they were doing and helping, girls escape trafficking and everything. And my heart was there, so I got involved personally. And before he knew it, Vera Bradley was in it, and we've watched this amazing relationship. But why did we do it? Because at the end of the day, we said, it's helping make the world a brighter place. So to us, that is the vision. That's part of what motivates. It's part of the reason why our team is inspired to make a difference every day. It's not just a job, but it's something greater than that. And I think it's so important. And so when you think about vision, how do you encapsulate something that people feel that they can commit their energy to, that you can commit your energy to? So if you can do that as a leader, you're on your way, okay? So step one, a couple good books to think about. I always like to throw out some books if you want to read, but Blue Ocean Strategy is probably the best thing on understanding vision and position and all those kind of good things. And Conscious Capitalism, just talking about the why, right? We as a society need to get back to, all of us in business should not just be around making money is great. We should make it. It helps it. It's the fuel that keeps the business going. But we need to do a lot more than that. And that's really what that's all about. Great movement. Number two, tenacity. It's kind of an interesting word, right? Tenacity. I think leaders, right, not only dream, which is the vision, right? What could it be like? Where could we go? How do we inspire? But you actually have to get there, right? That's why it's called what? Not dreamership, visionship, it's called leadership, right? So to me, tenacity is one of the key things in leadership, right? That, sometimes when we lead from the front, sometimes we lead from the back, sometimes we lead all alone, right? It's not easy. So anybody who wants to go lead, just be prepared, right? It's not an easy path. It's hard, right? But it can be incredibly rewarding. So how do you lead, right? You have to overcome obstacles. You have to train your organization that we've got this great vision. But if they believe it's going to be easy, they're going to be what? Disappointed, right? Because when it gets hard, make sure they understand it's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. It's worth fighting for, right? Life is not easy. Anybody have an easy life? I don't know. I don't see a lot of hands, right? Life isn't easy. Vision isn't easy. Work isn't easy. Nothing is easy, but it can be incredibly rewarding. But we have to be tenacious, right? So how do we overcome obstacles? How do we create learning cultures in our teams, in our families, in our communities? That there's nothing wrong with talking about failures and shortcomings. We should actually enjoy it because we learn from it, right? How do we create that? The hardest thing I have found in all my years is creating that mentality on a team. Nobody wants to deal with what's wrong. What happens when somebody's wrong and something's not working? What does everybody do? Right? It's not me. I didn't do it. Everything I'm doing is working. If those other people would do their job, everything would be cool. Right? And then everybody looks at them. My favorite thing when we do associate surveys every year, right? Engagement surveys, what's going on? And I've been in a lot of companies, and there's two questions you always ask. Okay? How well are you and your team doing to accomplish what needs to be done? It's always highly rated. How's everybody else in the company doing? Not good at all. You go, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it, right? Everybody's team's perfect, but the organization's not. So that is this thing, right? And how do you eliminate that thing? How do you eliminate in your homes, your communities, your businesses? That you say, no, let's come together. It's okay. We fail. We're frail. We make mistakes. It's okay. Let's learn from them. Let's get better. Let's move forward. Build these learning cultures becomes incredibly important, right? How do you do that? One thing I've learned along the way that helps with learning cultures is move the adjectives from success or failure and just put the numbers. Those are much harder to argue with, right? So, your kids come home from school, how'd you do on the test? Really well. Well, what was your grade? Well, that's a different story. I mean, I've always loved that answer, right? I've done really well. What'd you get? Not so well, huh? I'll never forget as a manager early in my career, I had somebody I worked with. And I asked her, and this happened to be a performance challenge, but I asked her, I said, how are you doing? Doing great. Well, we said we needed to get all these things done. Are we doing well? Oh yeah, everything's good. I said, okay, let's go through the list. So I said, how did this work? Oh, not very well. How'd you do over here? No, didn't get that done. Oh, by the time we got done, I said, how are you doing? Not well at all. I think I need to leave. Why? Because there's measurable, right? What's the measurement? What do we all agree on? How do we get there? And again, then we can get better, right? We're a little short. I mean, I talk a lot with people who if you're training or working out, right? What's the easiest thing? I want to get it done this much, this speed, this fast. I didn't get there. What do I do different? How do I get better, right? Building that into an organization, that's part of tenacity, right? Ask tough questions. Don't be afraid to ask the hard question. You can ask the hard question in a what? Very nice way, right? There's a difference between asking tough questions and just being a jerk, right? But how do we ask tough questions? How do we ask tough questions of the person looking in the mirror? How do we ask tough questions of the people that work for us? It's all part of tenacity, right? You're digging in, you're getting into it. Empower others, because if you do these things, other people will become empowered. You'll trust them, right? Because if you're agreeing on the KPIs, you're asking the tough questions, you're pushing forward to the goal, people will be independent, right? You're training them, you're leading them somewhere. Always got to focus on delivering results. Always have to push for opportunity and innovation, right? That nothing can't be overcome. And I think too often that's what causes teams to fail. It can't be done. What can't be done? Right? I mean, think about the things that we accomplish as people. Things should not be possible, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I watch Paralympic athletes. How do they overcome that, right? People talk about their obstacles, and we got people running who don't have legs. I mean, the logic doesn't work here, right? But people solve it. Nobody thought we could get to the moon before we went to the moon. You can't do those things. What did people do? They broke it down and worked through it. I'll never forget in my own career, one of the greatest examples I had of this, I don't know if I said, but I grew up in Southern California. So one of the things we have in Southern California all these times are these fun things called earthquakes. How many people have been in an earthquake? Raise your hand. So when I was there during what was called the Northridge earthquake, which was a bad earthquake in the middle of a population center. And I'll never forget, I said, this one isn't too good. I was running a store. So it was 5 o'clock in the morning. I went down to this department store that I was running. I walked in, and I'm walking through the first floor. There's stuff on the floor. And the second floor, there's like water and stuff's not right. And I walked to the third floor, and the whole roof has collapsed. And I called my boss at the time, and I said, we got a real problem. He says, you don't have a problem. He says, we have another store that's fully collapsed, gone. One that literally the top floor is gone. He says, yours is no problem, right? So I'm like, well, it feels like a problem. Anyways, so we had all these smart people come in from our corporate headquarters. They came down, and I was asking them, and they said, you can't open the store for a year. And I said, why? And they said, well, because the escalators have shifted. And if you open it up, the escalator falls off, it's not too good. So I said, I said, okay. I said, but all of these businesses are closed in this area, right? You're talking about a population of, I don't know, 1 million people, right? And there's no department stores. So my brain's going, I think there's an opportunity here, right? And they're like, I said, so it's just about the escalators? I said, yeah. I said, well, can we put a wall around the escalators and just close the place off and open the store? Well, yeah, we could do that. 2 weeks later, the store's open. Only store open for a year in the community. We had a great year, right? Because, again, what is it? It's this tenacity thing of saying, okay, fine, there's a problem. How do we solve the problem? And how do you build that in your organizations? in your families, in your communities? Just what is it? Let's not hide from it. Shine light on it. We got a problem. Let's get together. We're all smart. We can figure it out. Let's figure it out. And if you can accomplish amazing things. And that's what leaders do, right? Because what leaders do is show people it's possible, right? What's the vision? Where are we going? What's the obstacle? Let's solve it. Super important. So, a couple things that I have seen in my own career that have really inspired me, and these are old, so you can tell I'm getting old in my old age here, but some of you have been around and seen it, but this Good to Great, right? One of the most classic business books, but there's a section in it called Level 5 Leadership. What makes great leaders? And you're going to see a lot of similarities between what they're saying and what I'm saying. So one is this idea of humility and will. Will is tenaciousness. It's this ability to fight through anything. So as you're a leader, I encourage you to think about what obstacle are you facing today? What obstacle is your team facing? And how do you not hide from it, but how do you jump into it, right? The biggest problem we all have is what do we do when something's not going well? We ignore it. We think it'll go away if we just ignore it. How often has that worked out for us, right? Doesn't work in relationships, doesn't work in businesses, doesn't work in organizations. Dive in, deal with it, fix it. So, talk about lifetime value. Vision, tenacity. Anybody remember what the third one is? Bet you didn't expect to hear that, did you? Love. And I will tell you, why is this up here? And I will tell you, somebody on my team inspired me with this. Because they were talking about somebody who was leading them and talking about them leading with love. And I had never heard that phrase before. And I'm like, that's the magic. And you say, well, what does he mean that leading with love is the magic? Because it's the empathy. And it's a word that is so overused, but the most powerful thing you can do. Why? Because what is empathy? It's the ability to see the world through somebody else's eyes. I know somebody a few thousand years ago who was really good at empathy. And if you read the story, you realize that every time he interacted with people through empathy. And I think as leaders, it's something for us to think about, right? So when you think about empathy, right? What is empathy? Trying to get inside the head, the understanding, the desires of everybody who depends upon you, right? This fancy word called stakeholders. If you go read business, it used to be what businesses and capitalism was all about back in the days when it was different, when we actually cared about all the things, and it's making a comeback. But what do your customers really want? No, what do they really want? Not what do they tell you, because they probably don't even know. And anybody who's done a lot of customer research knows that they almost never know what they want. Your job is to figure out what they really want, right? I remember early in my career, we did a customer survey. We asked them, what is the most important thing to you when you shop in a store? And everybody said, service. And then we asked them a follow-up question. If you go to store A and they have amazing service, and store B has a great sale, what was it? Price, right? Anybody want to know, if you've been around for a few decades like me, what department stores used to be and what department stores are today? And everybody goes, well, department stores screwed up. No, actually, customers said what? Give me the best price. When I give you the best price, you begin to lose all those extras, right? So customers don't always really know, so you have to get inside their heads. You have to get inside your investors' heads. You have to get inside your employees' heads. You have to get inside of everybody to see the world. That's where you start to lead with love. Because why? Then as you build your vision, what is your vision doing? It's meeting a need, a deep need that somebody else has, right? So think about this empathy, understanding, listen, building trust. Because don't you trust those people around you who truly know you, who care about you, who want to understand you, who want to address your needs, right? What's happening with employee engagement today? This idea of getting to understand what employees need, right? How do we build this world where employers understand employees, and what? Employees also have to do what? Understand employers, right? Because both have to work, right? The business has to work, work-life balance, that old phrase which means nothing, but this idea that we have to both understand each other so that we can build a relationship that works, right? So build trust, build humility. So I talked about that level 5 leadership. They said the number one thing, and it was amazing, when that book was written, if you looked in media, it was the day of the celebrity CEOs, and most of them did not look like humble people. They were big personalities who sucked up all the oxygen in the room, and everybody thought that made a good leader. And when they actually went and did all the research, you know what they found? The minute they walked off stage, their entire organizations collapsed. And they said the organizations that were built to last were led by humble leaders. And what do they mean by humble leaders? It wasn't about them. It was about what? The organization. So when they left, guess what? The organization was still there doing just fine, right? And so lead with that humility that other people are more important, right? Team first, part of being humble. We also have this other thing that I encourage you, and again, wherever you're leading, whole person development. I think one thing that's so exciting, we all look at changes in culture, and having been around for 4 decades, everybody has a tendency to bemoan whatever the culture is you're living in today. I can't remember the time where everybody thought it was great. But one thing that I think is super exciting right now is there is a focus on actually trying to understand everything that goes into somebody, right? So you think about whole person development, one thing we talk about at Vera Bradley all the time, it's actually part of our training programs, development programs, everything we do. We say that we worry about our associates' physical health, financial health, emotional health. And why? Is it just because we're nice? No. It's not just because we're nice. It's actually a good business idea. Why is it a good business idea? What happens when an employee is weak on one of those things? Do you think they're doing their best work? No. Right? So just purely selfishly, from a business standpoint, right? Worrying about those things. How do we help everything about people, right? How do we help in our families, our communities, our teams, and our companies, right? Have a team meeting that's not only about what are we accomplishing, which is super important, but also how's everybody doing? How do we pull together, right? So you'll hear a phrase quite often that says culture eats strategy. I tell you, building vision, building a plan, it can be really exciting. It's like I can see it, but you know why a lot of those never win? Is because the culture is not supporting it. The problem is culture takes a long time to build, and it never stops. All those other plans, you could check it off. I did this, we accomplished this, we did this. Culture's harder, right? It's a lifelong pursuit. So culture is incredibly important. How much time are you spending on culture? And they say communicate, communicate, communicate. I would tell you, this is probably one lesson I learned more than anything. I'll never forget, when I was young in my career, my first job leading, I remember there was only one thing I was focused on. I've always been highly competitive. I just like to win. I don't necessarily need to beat anybody else, but I still need to win. So, right? So I got my job, and what was I going to do? I was going to be the best. I was going to win. So I went out there and did the things that I thought would make us win. And bottom line, we did win. But you know what I found out of my team, the people that work for me? They hated me. Because what did they think? The only thing I cared about was winning. They were just merely a tool to get us there. And it wasn't anything that I was doing that was like horrible. It was just they were really smart. They were right? Why did I come to work every day? To win. Not to make sure life was fun, to win, right? So I think what's really important is that you have to communicate in a way that people understand. They understand your vision. They understand your execution. They understand that you care. And one thing I find in communication, and I fight all the time, is people go, but we are doing fill in the blank with communication, right? Oh, we put out a memo. Oh, we had a meeting. Oh, we did a video. We communicated. Is that communication? Right? Think about our family. We have a tendency to do the same thing, right? Well, I told them. Therefore, we communicated. What's communication? What did they hear? What did they understand? You have to watch faces. You have to understand. You have to communicate. As a leader, part of showing you love and you care and you have a vision is communicating and communicating well. And again, it never stops, right? It never stops. It's what we say, it's what we do, it's how we act. And sometimes we don't do it well, right? So what do? We get up, we fix it, we do it better. Super, super important. So I've been talking about humility, kind of serving others, listening to others, being empathetic, doing all that kind of good stuff. So why would I put up something at the end that sounds selfish? Right? Self-care. And why would I put it under love? It's a great one. You got to love yourself first before you can love somebody else. Absolutely. And there's also this thing in leaders, and I've seen it with leaders who really care. They give so much away that at the end, what is left? Nothing. And then what happens? Are they good for anybody? No. They're done, they're drained. So one way that I've seen to try to inspire the best leaders, the leaders who really care, who want to serve, who are giving everything they have to their organization, is to say you have to take care of yourself. We are in a turnover in leadership in our society right now like we have never seen. The amount of pastors that are leaving, the amount of CEOs that are leaving, it is crazy, okay? We're talking about in senior leadership positions across most organizations that the surveys would tell you 70% don't expect to be there in a year. 2/3. Doesn't mean 2/3 will leave. But you are seeing levels of people walking away from leadership. Why? It's been a hard few years. And people are burnout. And it's easy as a leader to do what? Well, I'm burnout because. No, you're burnout why? You weren't leading, right? You have to lead yourself, too. So what do you need to make sure that you're at your best so that your team can be at its best, right? This self-care is not like, well, let me throw the team under the bus so I don't get hit, right? That's not what we're talking about in self-care. But we are saying you have to look at yourself. What do you have to do physically? What do you have to do financially? What do you have to do mentally? All of those things are important. Why? Because when you are not healthy, your team's not healthy. your family's not healthy. Your community's not healthy, right? And it's the one thing you have more control of than anything else. And it's the one area that we probably feel more victimized than any area in our life, right? We're like, oh, I would be happier if. That's the greatest lie ever, right? We control it, so we need to control it. So to lead with love, and I would tell you, this last one is the one that I have been working on most, because I'll be honest. What am I doing? Right? And part of it is it's been really hard. And you go, okay, it's probably time to do something different. It's time for the organization to do something different. Why? Because of this. It's important that we take care of ourselves. I just really encourage you guys. Your teams need it. Your families need it. Great book. Love this book. If you get a chance to read it, the whole principle, super simple. They talked about great leadership. They talked about why teams work. They talked about in the military. Love it. My son happens to, I don't know why he's decided he wants to go in the military. Nobody in my family's been in the military, but he's all focused on it. And I love this thing in the military, right? They talk about leaders eating last, something so simple that you walk in. The leaders in the military eat last. Why? Because they want to tell everybody in the room who is the most important person in the room. Right? Everybody in the front line is not there so that the general's safe. The general's there so that everybody else in the room is safe. So as a leader, what is that doing? It's showing your love for your organization and for everything you do. So when you think about it, after all of these years, what would I say I've learned? There's 3 things in leadership. There's 3 things to create a lifetime value. Love, tenacity, and vision. And if you do, the impact that you can have is extraordinary. The amount of lives you can touch. It's just, we all have this opportunity. Every day we are bringing people to fulfillment, or we are bringing people to what? The opposite, right? So, do you want to be a great leader? Or do you want to be a poor leader, right? And that's our challenge. Is leadership's not about position. Leadership's about action. And I think for me, as I think about kind of next, and even as I'm going through this change in chapter and what's next, this idea of having the opportunity to inspire people to lead well, that everything comes together. I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, hey, in the church too often that we say the only things that really are sacred or really matter are like the pastor, the worship leader, and the missionary, right? That's all godly, everything else is whatever, right? Where did that come from? What's more sacred than the impact that we have on our family, our spouse, our kids, our parents? What's more sacred than the impact that we're having on our teams, the people that we work with, that we probably see more than our families? We have the opportunity every single day. Every single person was created for a purpose to have an impact. And I just encourage everybody to think about it every single day. How do we lead? What is our vision? How are we persevering? How are we being tenacious? How do we love well? And that's what I hope to continue to work on in my own life. Sometimes I've done it well. Sometimes I haven't done it well. It's okay. Just try to do it better tomorrow than I did it yesterday. So that's all I've got to say. Now we get the great speaker. Where are they? So I know Q&A. Anybody who knows me, I know some people in this room have been in a room with me before. I love Q&A. So any questions? I don't know if we have a formal process or just go for it. So.